which we have oversight of, and that's how you come into being. I think these are issues that were discussed at the highest level by the former president in cabinet. So when a cabinet decision is made, the minister then gives you the task to implement. So as the permanent secretary for defense, Mr. Rishoya, you are the chief accounting officer, and I'm glad you are here, and I want to apologize that you also came on Friday, and it was only me, my own independent person. Others were quite busy, but others too had also apologized that they wouldn't come. So I also want to apologize to those who came on Friday that it didn't take off, but we are here, and I think we'll start, with Gachikache. Quickly give us an overview. We saw that you wrote to the clerk, and it's about the ZCDC issue on Gachikache, where the mining was supposed to happen. So let's just get a brief of who you are and what was going on there. And I think ZCDC is really the company that you think mentioned that did take over your operations there. Then we then go to the security sector, and we hope to be done in the quickest time possible. Thank you.
I swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the truth, so help me God. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members of the committee, and ladies and gentlemen that are here. I think the issue of Gache was widely reported in the papers since about 2016, thereabout, 2017. But we were not given the opportunity, to give our side of the story, because many of the things that were reported were actually not the truth at all. There was a claim that, the Minister of Mines had, discovered gold in Gache. That is not correct, because it was our company, Townsend Enterprises, that discovered the gold on their first delivery of wash sand to Sinohydro. The lab tests showed that there was gold in the sand. Now, we then went to report the issue to the Reserve Bank, and the Reserve Bank advises, specifically the governor of the Reserve Bank advises to make an application of a special dispensation, which we did, and then 2 weeks later, he advised us to write the same letter to the Permanent Secretary for Mines, which we did. There was no response for quite some time, about 2 or 3 weeks. For us, we felt it was an urgent matter since we had to deliver sand based on the contract, and if we did nothing about it, we were obviously, losing value as a company, but also as a country. So we continued to seek audience with the director for mining promotion, who then said, "Oh yes, I'm aware of your issue. And, well, it's not a problem. Okay, we just need to find out whether, in fact, there is gold or not." Quite some time passed again. And they gave us a team of 4 people from the Ministry of Mines to go and take samples and test the samples and find out whether there was gold or nothing at all. Now, indeed, they did find out that there was gold. But instead of responding to our application, they did nothing for about 3-4 months. And then suddenly, a company called ZCDC appeared without any notice or requisite papers. They came and dumped their equipment, forced our workers to help them to offload and cut down trees and all that, which in terms of the lease agreement that our company has with the Rural District Council, it is illegal to cut down trees and do that without the permission of the RDC and also the permission of EMA. Be that as it may, they had their way, they settled, and caused quite a lot of confusion to the extent that our operations had to stop for nearly 6 weeks because they were trying to dig here, dig there, and we had all kinds of confusion. So we then wrote quite a number of letters to the Permanent Secretary as well as the Minister of Mines to try and understand what really was going on, because we discovered the gold. We asked for permission to recover gold from the sand that we had to extract, wash, and send to the project in Kariba. There was no response, and time went by, no response at all. Now it's been 21 months since ZCDC settled in the area. I can confirm that they did nothing. They had quite a number of workers. We probably counted at most they had at some point about maybe 8 to 12 people that were there. They brought some equipment, and part of that equipment has now been removed and taken to another location. Now, we are aware that this committee made a recommendation that ZCDC should not be in Gache, and they had to leave the area within 30 days from the day that you gave the recommendations. But ZCDC is still very much in the area, in the location. We are trying to evict them, but of course they are contesting that eviction.
Sorry, just in the point of clarity. Sorry, members, are you aware of that recommendation? Okay, that's fine. Yes, you may proceed. Yes, true. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. So our request is very simple. Our request is that you cannot do large-scale mining in the area because this is a conservancy. And one of our companies actually holds the lease to the conservancy. So you cannot do large-scale mining, as has been said before, reported in the press. You can't. It's a conservancy. And in fact, once you understand the geography of the area, you realize that actually you're dealing with a fairly small place relative to other, mining locations, right? We're talking of a stretch of about 7 kilometers of river, right? Which have been highly silted over the years. Siltation has risen 4 meters in the last 10 years, destroying the riverbanks and effectively affecting the ecosystem of the area. The fish breeding grounds that were a major attraction in the area have disappeared. Ducks that used to breed in the area have disappeared. Now, we have a responsibility to try and make sure that as we manage the conservancy, we restore the ecosystem of the area, right? This point has been understood very well by Zinwa, and this is why Zinwa had initially allocated the sand abstraction site along the Gachegache River to help with the desiltation of the river. All right. To date, Townsend has extracted about 100,000 tons of sand. Of that, 45,000 tons were washed and delivered to the Kariba cement works. All right. Now, there is definitely more demand for sand in the area because of the new projects that are happening within the Kariba area. We have heard of the new airport. We have heard of the housing project that IDBZ, I think, are putting aside 14 million for. There are bridges to be constructed. There are roads to be rehabilitated and constructed in the area. So the sand from Gachegache has been proven, first of all, to be very good for construction works, and the tests were done at labs in Zimbabwe and also laboratories in South Africa. So naturally, that sand will be useful for construction. But be that as it may, the desiltation of the area is also very important because the ecosystem must be restored, the birds must come back. In summer, or rather in the dry season, animals...
Okay, let's just go through the Mining Act. In terms of rights, one is a farm and the mineral is identified. I'm trying to get the right act. I think mining rights override all that. I don't know if you know of any act that says that because they're animals you can't mine. Because even from a farming point of view, when one is a farmer and there's mining there, it overrides that. So to me, I don't want us to have submissions of something which is not supported by the law or in act. Because yes, we can talk about birds, we can talk about, yes, but if there are resources which are good for the country, birds don't mean anything. Because that's what the thing law says. Until we have a law that says birds are more important, while the conservancy is critical in being preserved, but let us talk about the act and the laws that support that. I think if we can be guided by that, I think it would also help the committee in having recommendations, because the issue is about ZCDC moving into Gachegache. Did they do it legally or not? The recommendation from Parliament, from this committee, was that they must move out. Yeah, you see, I think this is something that the committee is even seized with, in that you've got a situation where, in terms of mining, the Minister of Mines will give a license, and EMA will say no. And what the committee is seized with, what is first? Is it the license or EMA? So that is something that we're working with, so that you understand, because the environment of the people is also important. But we are also seeing a situation where the mining license is given first, and then EMA follows. So if the environment was so important, why don't we then ask for EMA first? And then the mining license will follow. So we are also seized with that, because there's really fights between EMA and the Ministry of Mines pertaining to that. Yes, it has to be a balancing act, but everybody believes that they have power over the other. So the committee is seized with that, and for as long as there is no law, I think the committee is quite aware of the recommendations that it has to make. In fact, there's actually a joint sitting which will happen between the Environment Committee and the Mining Committee to try and deal with this issue. That's how far we've gone. So I thought we would probably talk on issues where we know it's pretty clear. Where there's no clarity, and especially on the environment and mines, it will be very difficult to then make a recommendation. A recommendation will be changing the thing law.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I did mention earlier on that we as Townsend actually applied for permission to recover the gold, which in itself would imply some kind of mining. And the reason why we asked for a special dispensation is because we are very much aware of the statutory instrument 92 of 2014, which has certain limitations of what can be done in the area that we were operating, hence the need for us to ask for that special dispensation. And I believe that if the officials of the Ministry of Mines were sincere, they would have told us what was required. They would have formally told us whether it was doable or not doable. But as we speak today, we have not received any formal response at all, besides the action that was taken by ZCDC.
Okay, just hold on. Just a point of clarity, Honorable Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one point of clarity to Townsend, manager or CEO?
Chairman.
Or the chairman. The chairman of Townsend. Could you put it to this house that you actually requested through the ministry?
Correct.
Yeah, that you do the part of the mining. So in that case, you'll be doing riverbed mining, right?
That would be.
Which is against the law, right?
Well, the situation here is that we were already, by virtue of having had a contract.
I'm just putting reference to facts.
Correct.
Will you be doing riverbed mining, which is against the law? That's what you're requesting, isn't it?
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
You may proceed.
Right. So the member obviously has brought up a very important, point here that riverbed mining was against the law. Well, I'm not a lawyer, but there is actually no law that specifically states that. All right. There is statutory instrument 92 of 2014, which gives guidelines of what must happen or what must not happen within 200 meters of the river. All right? Now, our reason for asking for a special dispensation was to find out whether, in fact, there could be consideration that we are allowed to recover the gold from the sand, because we were removing the sand anyway from that particular location because it was allocated by Zinwa. That was the logic in doing that. The original motive of going into the area was not to mine gold, but there was gold. So we saw no reason why we shouldn't ask for permission to recover that gold, because it has value for the country and, of course, for the company as well. So our request, Chairman, is if this matter can be reconsidered and whether, in fact, statutory instrument 92 of 2014 is doing the country a disfavor, because it is a known fact that most of the rivers in this country do have gold in them. And it is the quickest way for this country to earn revenue. Yes, the issues of environmental management, restoration are critical, and policing, has to be done. But I'm sure that we cannot just let, the gold flow into the lake, or, the sand be used to build, walls full of gold. That's my point, Chairman.
I think what is important is to appreciate the role of ZCDC. It's a diamond mine, it's in Gachakacha, the equipment given. I think that's where the interest for the committee is. And did they come there as a registered company? That's what we would want to know. Is there any paperwork that you were shown to say, this is who we are, according to this is our documentation, and this is our permit to then special grant in able to also mine? Were you shown that?
Chairman, I wrote personally to the permanent secretary and the managing director then, Mr. Mark Mabudu, and another gentleman called Sebastian Mabenge, asking for papers, because we were concerned in two ways. That our other company that owns the conservancy would be in trouble legally if we allowed anybody to go there and do mining or activities that are considered illegal in terms of the lease agreement. So we asked for these documents. Who are they? Do they have permission from Emma and all that, so that we could be sure. And if everything had been given, surely we had no reason to deny them that, since they were a company that had been given the authority. But no such information was provided. If anything, there was a lot of forceful action that was taking place, and we could not find any. We did our own search to find out whether this company called ZCDC was indeed a government company, and who the directors were, who the shareholders were. There was absolutely nothing. There was absolutely nothing at all. So yeah, that in itself was a problem for us, that we have an illegal entity that the officers of government claim to be a government company, but on record it is not. That was a problem.
Members, would you have any questions that you want to ask pertaining to? Yes, Honorable Chidako.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My first question is that you said they wrote several letters to the Minister of Mines. If they can furnish this committee those letters which are saying we're not getting response. My second question is that after ZMDC invaded your area, did you try to go to the courts since you were cleared your papers and your lease agreement? Why didn't you try and go to the court and say these people have invaded our private area, these are our papers? Did you try to take that route?
Thank you.
Okay, before you respond, Honorable, are you still on the same one? It's a new question. Okay, I'll give you an opportunity. Honorable Mtsiano.
Thank you, Chairman. My other question to the fellow chairman is to do with the scent. As we speak now, you have talked of a stretch of about 7 kilometers. While it's proper, we appreciate the desalination processes which will help the river to flow constantly. How do you expect to manage the removing of the sand? How will you do it while it won't affect the environment? If you can expatiate on that. Because there is this picture that in due course, sand will be taken from that place. So what is his plan? Probably if you can finish the comment with detail. Thank you, Chairman.
You may respond.
Thank you, Chairman. The first question about the letters, yes, we will provide copies of the letters, which unfortunately I did not bring them today, but I do have those copies, and also the proof of delivery. The people that accepted those letters, we will provide those letters for the committee. Secondly, did we go to court? Right? At that time, we did not go to court. We did write to the ZRP, I think it's called Minerals and Border Control Department, explaining that we had this situation happening and these people had not provided, all documents. Could you please do something about it? All right. They wrote back to us saying that, well, the matter was being, investigated, and then nothing ever happened after that. Why did we not go to court at the time? With hindsight, you say you should have. But yes, we have recently, gone legal to try and evict them. Because in any case, they've been doing nothing for the last 21 months. They come in and go, they come in and go, but there's absolutely no activity, in the area. So to answer your question, we didn't go legal at that time. Why? It's hard to say. At that time, most of our members felt, look, why are we trying to fight government, If the government has given the authority, well, what have we got to do with it? But of course, the more we understood the case, the more we realized that actually, it really wasn't a government thing. There was quite a lot of personal interest, in that whole project. But yes, we've got now the courage to try and, go legal. And we are aware that, ZCDC are actually trying to fight that. The third question about how to manage the sand, okay?
Sorry, I follow up before you go to the... thank you. Can you make it quite clear that you now have approached the courts, or you have an approach to the courts? The fact that you have written to the other institutions of government is immaterial, because nobody is above the law. When anybody, any citizen, any company, any institution is wronged by anyone, at the end of the day, the law is above everything. Could I put it to you that probably you were also not sure of your being legally doing what you have been doing there. That's why you did not have courage to go and fight these people in the courts.
Thank you, Chair. I think our legal position was very solid. We had all our paperwork to be there, but perhaps the courage to put up a fight wasn't there, because as you know, it is not a sole decision. Whereas I had the courage, my other colleagues at that time didn't have the courage.
I think it's very clear. When we did this session, we're going to waste time. I mean, I think the committee wants to know, why did you not go to court? I think it's very simple, because court is there. And to us, we think recommend you've come to talk about a situation which did not go well to this committee. You're basically reporting government to us, because that's our job, and that's why you are here. And we've got to exercise every avenue that is there, so that we ensure that there is rule of law. Because we cannot have a government which cannot be taken to court. We cannot have a government which has people who work, who go on doing things with impunity. And the committee wants to know, why did you not go to court? Was there somebody holding a gun to your head? I mean, you are a board with people who are learned, and you make resolutions. One is infringed on your rights. Approach the courts. Justice delayed is justice denied. So now look at what has happened in taking time to go to court, from a revenue point of view, from so many things that have happened. And it would have been great for you to be, before this committee says we did go to court. And in going to court, this is the situation.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, Chairman.
Yes.
Just to supplement that. Most probably, Mr. Chairman, there are no chances that probably your failure to take the government to court as a result of failing on your part was purely to do, probably you got this chance through some dead means. So probably there was this sympathy attitude that, of course, I got this, it was not proper, why would I take them to court?
A resounding no on that one, Chairman. All our work was quite legal. Yeah, it was a mistake not to go to court. But having said that, there was a lot of bullying going on. We had all kinds of visits, and at some point we had a visit of...
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. We are not here to speculate, Mr. Chairman. We want facts. Who were bullying you? That's why we're sitting here.
Who was visiting?
Who was visiting?
Was he the president? Who was bullying you? We want to get every fact if we are to get to the bottom of this matter. We don't have to go to beat about the bush to say we did not go because there was bullying. That's what we want to hear. Who was bullying you? Otherwise, it's just words which you are throwing. Probably on your part it was just a failure. You probably had no case to argue. We could put it that way.
Chairman, we did not go to court because of the fear that we would lose the lodge. At one point, we had visits from, I think, a contingent of about 16 to 20 police and army people. I don't know who was there on that particular day. I was not on site myself.
If we need to move with progress as a committee of parliament, let's have names. Because army, anyone from 40,000, CIO, I'm not sure if I know a good tipe mazita, dape. Muri doctor imimi, toda mazita, akuna kuti army, zvazodai, vaiwe usiku, ndianani mazita avo, ndetoda bana.
Yes.
Aita swei iye ngataure sezvazviri kwete kuti vakati havazii andasweya ini apo ngatudze chokwadi.
I think that you are certainly protected by the privileges and immunities of Parliament, and I think we're going round and round, and I think you can see the members are now getting a bit agitated, rightfully so, because I think we need to make progress. If you were not there, if you heard, then you are not the person to speak of something that happened when you're not there. It's either you brought a security person here, and I think maybe we can even ask you to come back again with a full team of all those people who were there when it happened, so that we then do proper recommendations, because it seems you don't have your entire team. You're talking about being visited by the army, being visited by the police. Those are critical institutions in this country, and we don't want to speculate over that. I think if you're not a full team, we'll invite you back again so that you come totally ready with your security officers, with the people who are on the ground, so that there is no hearsay. You have taken oath. We don't want you to also prevaricate and not tell this committee exactly what thing happened. May I propose that to you, that if you're not ready, come with your security person on the ground, the same way that Mbada did. It had its board of directors, shareholders, but when it came to the aspect of security, there was somebody who was on the ground, who was responsible for security, and who spoke about what then happened from a security point of view. So can I propose that? Because this is serious business, and as you can see, and there's so much that we have to do, and you'd written to Parliament, and you've been afforded the opportunity, because we hear from everyone. We'd left you out in terms of the ZCDC issue, but again, why are you not ready as a team?
Chairman, if you may allow me to give factual information that I'm aware of. There were 2 visits of ministerial contingents. The first visit was Minister Chombo, Minister Chinamasa, I think and Minister Chidakwa, and the Permanent Secretary for Mines, right?
What is the name of the Permanent Secretary for Mines?
Professor Gujganga.
Okay.
Then a second visit, and that was after they had delivered equipment, ZCDC had delivered equipment. There was another visit, which now included Minister of Environment, Comrade Opam Chinguri, Minister Chombo, Minister Chidakwa, and Minister Chinamasa. There were now 4 of them, all right? And the comments were, well, you know, you guys, you know, just cooperate, right? Cooperate with the CDC and all that. So, you know, could we go to court? Could we not go to court? It becomes that sort of question that we had. I cannot give you the names of the military and police people that came, but I will dig that up and give it to you. May I go to the third question, which I was asked, what are you going to do with the sand? All right. There is in excess of 50 million tons of sand in that stretch, which obviously will build up with time. And there's also a lot of environmental degradation in the area, right? The conservancy is a 5-kilometer radius from the point where the lodge is, all right? And that is to the south side of the Gachegache River. A lot of gullies have been formed over the years, right? So this sand, as we take it out, we need to refill the gullies. And the equipment to do that is there. The studies have been done to find out what it will cost to do that. So the sand will be used to refill, you know, the gullies, but also the sand will be sold to, you know, people doing construction and all that. So that is our plan for the sand. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Chairperson, this story being told by Dr. Okonya makes an interesting story. Why? Because first he says when they recovered gold, they went and reported to RBZ, which directed them to the Minister of Mines. And they wrote it to the PAC, there is a certain audience with the director, and nothing happened. I don't want to go into details because some of my colleagues have already asked it. My question to them is, when the ministry did not consult and when the ministry started causing confusion, where did they go? The other question is, who was then the minister and permanent secretary at that time of the confusion? Then the other one is that they are saying that the ZCDC moved into Gachegache with the equipment and later removed it. Was it before the letter from the committee or before the letter from the committee? Then on the environment issue and the gullies that he's talking about, what was the role of EMA during that time? I hope he's writing down my questions. And the issue of the new airport, who was coordinating this project of then making sure the airport was there and leaving out these other projects or activities? And he said some people had some personal interest. Can you give us names of those with personal interest in this activity? Thank you.
That was quite a lot of questions. I hope I remember all of them.
Okay, sorry. May I also take this opportunity to introduce are there any members of Parliament besides Honorable Nduna that have? So I'll introduce Honorable Nduna myself. Honorable Dexter Nduna, Chair Gutu West, Member of Parliament, Mashonaland West, Honorable Kwena, Chirezi as well. Honorable Majaya, Honorable Solo Chengwe, Midlands Proportional Representation. I did it myself because the moment we gave Honorable Nduna the thing, Mike, he couldn't be out.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, but I represent Chegut West constituency. In my constituency, there is a ubiquitous amount of mineral wealth, which I would certainly not take kindly to being plundered. So this is why I am here.
Thank you, Mayor. Dr. Okonya.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the first question was when the ministry did not, respond. Where did we go? What did we do? We believed that the ministry would be the ultimate authority, given the knowledge we had about mining law, and until they have responded you know, you keep on waiting or you keep on engaging. And we kept on asking, you know, when are we going to get, you know, a response? When are we going to get a response? And it was, well, you know, put it in writing, tell us what you intend to do, you know, give us a drawing of how you're going to put the, you know, the plant and all this sort of, which things we did, you know, subsequently. But this was all conversational. I remember we engaged Deputy Minister Fred Moyo then. The minister, by the way, was Minister Chidakwa at the time. And he never responded, wrote letters, some of which I personally delivered. There was no response. And we just took the approach to try and engage as much as possible because the decision was going to come from there. And when we got tired, obviously, we said, look, maybe it's worth writing, you know, to the Office of the President. We wrote letters to Dr. Mishek Sibanda explaining that, look, we have got this situation. We don't have a response. Can we at least have a response? Is it a no or a yes? We need to know, all right? Because remember, we were still digging sand and delivering without removing gold. And to us, that was a very painful thing because that's the revenue being lost to ourselves and, of course, to the fiscus as well. Then the second question was, when did ZCDC move their equipment out? Was it after, you know, the letter, the recommendation? We don't know about that. I can't, you know, lie. I'm not sure when they removed their equipment, but to my recollection, I think the equipment was moved probably around July, August last year, maybe. They still have, you know, a certain shell that they've got there, which they haven't done anything about. And they've got 2 or 3 guys that are still coming. So as far as I'm concerned, they haven't left. You know, they've only moved the excavators and all that. What was the role of EMA in all this? I'm aware that EMA made several visits actually to inspect what we were doing as well as what you know, ZCDC was doing. We were then given certain guidelines to say, you know, well, you know, since ZCDC are here, can you guys move, you know, another 50 meters away from a certain location, which we complied with. But as far as ZCC is concerned, we don't know what EMA did. Of course, our investigations tell us that they did not give an approval to ZCDC to do what they wanted to do. So maybe EMA, in fact, did something about it. The airport project, I'm a bit confused about that question. I mentioned it because it has been publicly reported that it is a project that has been, you know, approved or is on the cards. That will happen in Kariba. We don't have anything to do with it, but, you know, we see it as a business opportunity from a delivery of, you know, sand and other aggregates that may be required for that particular project. The other question was, you know, you say that there were personal interests. Where are personal interests? I think, to me, when a government official is not giving you a position that is official in writing, there is a problem. And that's, you know, there must be a personal interest, and that's my judgment. To say there must have been a personal interest in this thing, because if you consider that ZCDC, the company itself, did not have a gold mandate, and even does not have a gold mandate as far as we know, why was there so much effort to try and get ZCDC involved, and then later on there was firing of certain people for whatever reasons? It just causes a lot of questions, and it is really my judgment to say there certainly were a lot of personal interests, you know, in this project. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to welcome border control. You're coming at the right time. We want to ask you, did you know about this? Border control unit.
Yes.
Yeah, may you take off, because I'd want to ask a question pertaining to this Gati issue that they did write to you about it, and what did you do about it?
I, Assistant Commissioner Henry Lakama, do hereby state that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the truth. So help me God.
I, Chief Superintendent Sagarombe, do swear that the evidence I'm going to give is the truth, nothing else but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you very much. We started the session. I see Mr. Pondo is not here.
I think he was wanted to attend because I met him on that day when we came and the meeting was postponed to today. I met him outside. I don't know whether he was told of that he was required to attend today.
Because I think it's important that he was one who was in charge on these issues more than yourself during the time, and it's important that he's here. He was also commanding the controls unit and the Minerals Controls Unit, and we know the situation when we ask questions and we're referring to somebody who's not there. And my only question to you really, since you're here, we have to call you, and then after that you can excuse yourselves really, so that you come with them, because it's critical that he's here. Are you aware of the Gache situation where ZCDC went there and they said that they wrote you a letter pertaining to the challenges that they were having with ZCDC at the time?
The Gache. Where is this Gache? I don't remember receiving the letter because I took over command of Minerals and Border Control Unit just this year, last month. So during that time, the Gache.
Okay, I think, why don't you, well, let's have a situation where you come in as a team, and I've always said we need more time with you because I think you have to answer to the smuggling, to the leakages that happen. So it's a total session with you, because I think you are the eye for the minerals of this country. Yet there have been so many leakages, so we would not be doing justice by allowing it to be without even the former officer commanding being here, Pondo, and others who also were there before you. It has to be a total team, because if I have to ask you questions now, and you're right to say you only assumed the office last month, and what is it that you can say to us? It's not much. Maybe you haven't even gone through the files, but it also gives an opportunity to go through the files, and we will write to you so that you come through to us. I think allow Parliament to get hold of you when you can come next. I think you are excused. Thank you for coming. Members, I think we are now moving to defense.
Can I just some point of clarity from Mr. Okonya?
Dr. Okonya, yes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Might have been asked before, but it's very key to know how much you are said to have delivered to Kariba 7 and 8 in terms of sand, and what quantities of mineral, in particular gold, was said to be in there, so that at least we can get to know how much value you added to Kariba 7 and 8 in terms of the value of the concrete structures that are there. So what is it that is alleged to have been in the sand in terms of quantities of gold, and how much is it that you sent to Kariba 7 and 8? I think it's very key, it's very important, so that we can get to match the allegations against the quantities of mineral that were embedded in the sands.
Thank you, Chair. The amount of sand delivered, I said earlier on, was about 45,000 tons. 45,000 tons of washed sand, that is. And for you to come up with 45,000 tons, you probably need to dig about 3 or 4 times that much. So we estimate about 120,000 tons having been dug out, and 45,000 tons having been delivered across the lake to the works at the Kariba Dam. Now, how much gold was in there obviously becomes pretty much anybody's guess, but in terms of the sampling that was done and the estimates that we were working with, we believe that there should have been at least 3 grams per ton of gold in the sand that went out, which means 45 times 3 is what? About 100 and something, is it? 135 kilograms of gold, conservatively, that is, right? And that is quite some amount of money, maybe more than, how much, 40 million plus, that would have been lost as a result of the gold not being taken out of there. So that is my response to that.
Sorry, Chair. I say this because the cost of the Kariba 7 and 8 is said to have been $500 or so million US. So conservatively, I put it across to you. Do you then think the value would have gone up by another 45 million to 600 million?
Chairman, I think mathematically that is correct. In other words, by virtue of having lost the opportunity to recover that gold from the sand, we basically, put into the war another, 45 million. I think that reasoning is quite correct from my point of view. Thank you.
I will move to the Minister of Defense now. If you can take off itself, thanks. And those involved. I think you might as well do the Central Intelligence Organization as well.
Martin, before I swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the truth, so help me God.
I, Isaac Moyo, Director General of the CIO, do swear that the evidence I will give is the truth, nothing else but the truth, so help me God.
I thought Director General, you'd say ambassador.
I, Jimias Matzingira, I swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the truth, so help me God.
I, Brigadier General Taronga, I swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the truth, so help me God.
I, Shingrai Manyeruke, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the truth, so help me God.
I, Douglas Marekera, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the truth, so help me God.
I think Permanent Secretary Mr. Nshwa, you are aware of why you are here, and I think it's just to do with the concession which was given to the Ministry of Defense during the time of the economic challenges that we're facing in the country. As a result, you benefited from that. If you could just give us an overview on the operations, production of that entity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. A bit of background information. The poor performance of the economy had a knock-on effect on the ability of government to adequately financially support all institutions, Ministry of Defense included. As a way to alleviate the funding challenges, a decision was taken at the highest level of government, allowing the defense to venture into commercial activities for the purpose of generating funding support. In that regard, the ministry, you might be aware, Mr. Chairman, opened ventures in agriculture and also in the diamond mining field. The ministry formed a special purpose vehicle after engaging a Chinese partner and formed Anjin on a 50-50% basis. The Zimbabwean component was not only composed of Ministry of Defense as board members, we had two from the Ministry of Home Affairs, to be specific, police in particular, represented in that board. We had the Ministry of Defense as well, three in that board. We had an outsider, Mr. Machacha. We also had Ministry of Mines represented in that board. So, Mr. Chairman, it is not true from what I've heard that it was merely a military operation. It was a board composed of various stakeholders. After that engagement, when we formed Anjin, it recruited skilled personnel, not the army, as people might want to purport, skilled personnel with the requisite experience to work on the mine. On my left is the Deputy General Manager, who is an accountant by profession, is not a military officer. So we recruited people on merit, be they retired military personnel, be they retired police personnel. Our security manager that we have today, Mr. Marekera, we recruited him from the police. So it was purely a business venture, an economic venture, where we recruited the right people for the right positions. We then sought the legal requirements after having been given the leeway to proceed by the former president. We secured a special grant, which I have, from the ministry, allowing us to operate. As a result, we subsequently were involved in the operations in the mining area. Before that, you must be aware, Mr. Chairman, that Zimbabwe was not allowed because it was not certified by the Kimberley process. It was ourselves who initiated that process. And all the other people that came on board were riding on the KPC certification that we started. As you are aware, Mr. Chairman, we operate on legal, very legal basis as Minister of Defence. So we did that process in conjunction with the Minister of Mines. And we were also involved in the actual funding for that process to be thoroughly completed. We were awarded the KPC certificate as Zimbabwe, and we started mining after that legal process was done. One of the requirements for the KPC is the installation of a CCTV. When we started from day one, our operations were being monitored by CCTV. Nobody would just enter that process. Everyone will then be captured. Any single carat will then pass through that process. No one is allowed to take anything from that area. And I must also want to emphasize that at the mine, we had the relevant security and key stakeholders in the form of MMCZ, ZRP Mines and Border Control Unit, resident at the mine, so that all the security challenges will then be taken care of. We were given the special grant in 2010 for 3,731 hectares. The process then involved the mining, where we were mining initially alluvial, then of late conglomerate. It was not true that it was only alluvial. We were the only mine that did both alluvial and later conglomerate. We were mining, like I said, and I'll give you the financials and the number of carats later. We were then surprised when we were told to abruptly stop operations and the takeover of the mine that happened in 2016 on the 22nd of February. They were alleging that the grant had expired, but if you look at clause 8 of the grant, it states that I will read: the holder shall mine in this special grant as long as is feasible, provided inspection fees are paid as provided in the Mines and Minerals Act, Chapter 21/05. We were paying inspection fees, and according to us, the mine was still viable. That's why we were saying we were actually shocked when we were ordered to stop, because we thought we had the legal basis.
So you're telling me that the police came and the army folded their arms and allowed the police to take over something illegal?
Mr. Chairman, like I indicated, it was a company comprising both the civilians, our partners, the Chinese, and some of the military personnel that were engaged in various fields. It was not necessarily the military. If it was that, it was going to be something else, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Really invading an army territory, and the army which controls the artillery just not doing anything. So I just want to appreciate that our army is actually quite humble.
We follow the legal processes, Mr. Chairman. The action by the Minister of Mines and Mining Development clearly contravened Clause 10 of the special grant that they issued us because the company was not afforded the opportunity to make representations before the drastic action was taken. Again, Clause 10 indicates that if there are any challenges, they are free to talk to us, we'll make our representations, then we'll come up with the way forward. But this was not done as well. It is our view that the minister could have acted under improper advice, because definitely that was a moment of madness, because we just saw the police coming armed to close the operation without any consultation done to the other parties. Given the nature of the stakeholders in Anjin, the company, through our attorney, we requested the Minister of Mines reconsider his actions and allow and follow due processes to resolve whatever issues he had with the Anjin special grant. But the Minister was not interested in such engagement, as he was very adamant that he had done the right thing.
So who was the thing
Minister? Initially, when we started with Minister Mpofu, but this time it was Minister Chidakwa. We therefore approached the courts, Mr. Chairman, seeking an interim relief, setting aside the Minister of Mines closure directive to allow the Minister of Mines to follow due processes. The relief, unfortunately, was not granted. We went further, Mr. Chairman, approached the Constitutional Court for determination whether the Minister of Mines' conduct on the 22nd of February met the constitutional standard as required by our law. The matter is still pending for determination by the Constitutional Court. A number of reasons, Mr. Chairman, were advanced by the Minister of Mines as justification of their conduct. For the record, Mr. Chairman, we hereby put forward our views and on some of the allegations made. Number one, that the operations lacked probity. We do not agree because operations were done with oversight of the key government departments. We've said ZRP, we've said ZRP through the Mines, Minerals and Border Control Unit, ZMDC, MMCZ. We had some of these officers stationed at the mine. After the mining processes, the carrying of the diamonds, Mr. Chairman, the whole team would take the diamonds to the sorting house. It was not Anjin alone, it was the entire team taking the finished product to the sorting house. MMCZ would then determine the price. After the determination of the price, an auction would be done, and the certification of whatever Anjin sold was done by the Minister of Mines. There is no incident where the team or the company was allowed to, it was not proper, it was contrary to KPC regulations. So every single carat was sorted out in the presence of that team, was taken to the auction, sold by MMCZ on behalf of the mining companies in the presence of that team. And the final certification, we've got a copy of the certification, which is done by the Minister of Mines. So to say that Anjin were mining when nobody else knew is not correct. Everything is on paper, everything is finally certified by the minister. Even when it's outside, it is the minister that certifies. All activities, like I've said, such as cleaning, sorting, and valuation, were done under oversight by the Ministry of Mines and Mining Development representatives, namely the ZMDC and MMCZ, and outside the Ministry of Mines, there was the ZRP Minerals and Minerals Unit. MMCZ, on behalf of the Minister of Mines, was actually responsible for the administering of the sale of diamonds, and all taxes, commissions, and fees were collected before the mining company was given. It was not us that were remitting taxes to government. They were collecting on the point of sale. This is ties of pure change. Government, they are Torah. Right. So it's not true, Mr. Chairman, kuti avana kubhadhara tax, atina kuita sei. There were maybe other motives behind the, but that's the process. We have names of people that we were dealing with, from mine, collection, to the sorting house. We have people who are responsible for facilitating the process of certifying by the Minister of Mines. If I can tell you for your information, panozima generals were very few vakambovisita kumine ikoko. Very few. It was purely an economic venture being run by our special purpose vehicle, Angie. Furthermore, our operations, courtesy of the investment partner, we secured the KP certification in 2011. So before that, it was illegal for Zimbabwe to sell their diamonds. But because of our processes, and nobody is made an effort to talk about it, but this Takaita through Anjin. It was our initiative to make sure that we do this properly and legally, Mr. Chair. We also wish to state that all operations were open to scrutiny by all relevant regulatory bodies, including but not limited to EMA, ZIMBRA, ZINWA, and we cooperated well with all of them. The other allegation advanced by the Ministry of Mines and Mining Development is that the investment partner did not deliver on their commitment as they agreed. We agreed what we're supposed to deliver in the presence of the former president, in the presence of the then Minister of Mines, and we never deviated from our intended purpose. So for them to indicate to us that that was one of the reasons was not true, Mr. Chairman. The issue to do with relocation of people, Vangwaripa concession, Mr. Chairman, we managed to construct 487 three-roomed houses, the relocation, before we even actually sold any single carat. 487, 388 three-roomed houses, but in terms of the actual relocation, we also did secondary school and a primary school and a clinic. Last time we invited the press, and they were reluctant to accompany the management to show them after some allegations from civil society. They are there, Mr. Chairman. We can invite the committee to go and see the houses, to go and see the clinic, to go and see the school and the secondary and primary school. We also even tarred 47 kilometers from the main Mtaro Road to the relocation site. Today, Iripo, we gave them computers for the school. We built a business center. My shops put it school Iran for its benefit. Then, as we speak now, they are leasing that business center, getting benefits to the school. 2 years after relocation, we were giving our people who were relocated try to live so that at least to cushion them before they start doing their own work on their respective field. So, Mr. Chairman, there was a total distortion of Anjin operations. Maybe deliberately, we don't know. But these are the facts that your committee can today go and see what was done on the relocation of the former settlers, Zepa concession. The issue to do with the financials, I know you not, yeah. A total of 332,674,088.70 was the gross amount received from Anjin operations. 332,674,088.70. This came from a total extraction of 9.022 million carats. And of this amount, 62,813,026 yakaenda ku government is royalties, is commissions. As the local partner, let me stress, Mr. Chairman, we had not started making profit. But as local partners, we asked for advances from our colleagues from that amount, from the gross of 332. And we were given 54.45 to 857.33 as advances because of our critical national commitments that we had. For your information, one of the national commitments that we were asked by the then principal to look at was the issue national scholarships with students of South Africa. And we were asked to look for that money. And we paid 24 million from that 54 something. We had challenges in 2 or so parastatals, which I can name Kamuri, Mr. Chairman. We helped them with 5 million from that. The Zimbabwe National Defence University. The government had failed to pay for the initial interest, failed or were reluctant to pay. We paid 12.57 million from the 54 that we were given. Mr. Chairman, it was an advance, and in that advance, we can account for every cent. Every cent. Other than these, we other external military hardware commitments that we paid, and we can give you to the last cent how we used the money that we had. So we were abruptly stopped whilst we wanted, and we still had some commitments that we were supposed to look at, Mr. Chairman. We also did advance ZMDC 1 million. We also did advance the ZRP 330,000 from the total of these advances, which I have said, Mr. Chairman, I can account to the last cent, whatever we got. Where a single carat that we mined went, we can account for that, Mr. Chairman. So we are saying to you, Mr. Chairman, as a committee, that this venture was abruptly stopped. We have showed you that it was not necessarily for ZNA, like what some other people would want to say. It was an operation that was supposed to assist. It did not only assist the military, it assisted some parastatals, it assisted our students who were stranded and were supposed to be sent home. But we did that. We were not crying to talk my paper and whatever. We knew what we were doing. We have nothing to hide. After the issue of the 15 billion was announced, we said to our colleagues in the Ministry of Mines let's come up with a statement to indicate that this thing is not possible. Who gave the former president that figure should scientifically explain what method he used. Because if you go by the world standards, he can vouch for me as an accountant. 14 billion the world over for 1 year. It's difficult to reach 14 billion. But we were saying there were leakages for 15 billion in this Zimbabwe. Even if every inch had diamonds, we could not get to that stage. So we're saying to our colleagues in the Ministry of Mines, come up with an explanation, because this thing has been given to the public. Let's explain, but nobody was interested. Nobody, up to today. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm inviting you to Anjin. You will see the equipment that is there. The equipment that is there. The level of vandalism that has happened. The levels of vandalism that has happened in that area. It will be good for the community to go and see the current position at the mine, to see the relocation that was done by Anjin, and come up with an informed decision. The press, again, to clear this air, go and see what is there, go and see what has been done. We were very transparent, Mr. Chairman, to the extent that we had so many visitors from the civil society, so many visitors from outside, because of the status of our security machinery in terms of the sorting and whatever of diamonds. We had quite a number of foreign visits. As an example, we have pictures which we can show you. We don't hide anything. It was an economic operations which was later hijacked by some ulterior motives which we don't know. So, Mr. Chairman, your committee is invited to see what we have. Whatever information that you want, we are free to provide. We have nothing to hide as a team. That's my brief. We will entertain questions. We've got the security manager, we've got our legal, we've got the management from Anjin. There is nothing to hide. Closer to Harare, Mr. Chairman, it will be good for you to go and see the state of the sorting house that we established at the Harare International Airport, next to the Harare International Airport. You'll see the levels that of standards that we had pegged this process for diamond mining. Outside the institutions that I have talked about, you know, the Golden Peacock Hotel, we've got a 50% in Mtare. It's our hotel. As a result of what we're doing, the long chain, Pama China, 50-50, this triple. This triple. For you to see. We have something tangible to show. Chairman,
Military speaks.
yes. Totaura zviripo and zvinoratidzika hatimboiti zvokunzvenga nzvenga. So we are here to entertain any further questions. The team is here. We have nothing to hide. We have something to show. Nothing to hide, but something to show. And my invitation of you, Chairman, and your committee, even tomorrow, I rest my case, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I see members of the committee. Let me just ask a question. When they took over, were there any diamonds at the mine? The hostile takeover, were there any diamonds at the mine?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, there were diamonds at the mine, but fortunately our vault was not tampered with, so we didn't lose the diamonds from that process. In fact, there was a subsequent directive that since we no longer had rights to mine or to hold diamonds, we need to submit them to the MMCZ so that all those formalities as administered by government are done, and we did not resist. We did all that, and those diamonds were handed over to the government, sold by MMCZ through another company called First Element, that the government had decreed that it was the company that would sell diamonds to complement the role of MMCZ. So we got our change, is what the PS has said. Government deducted its taxes and everything.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
It would be amiss for us not to ask the role that the current president played as Minister of Defense during this time. I think there is speculation. I think what we're hearing is to the inquiry, which is fair. And I think because he was Minister of Defense at the time, a lot was said, and I think most of the issues that you've presented before us certainly help in reaching a logical conclusion. What role did the then Minister of Defense, now President, play when he was Minister of Defense?
I have said, Chairman, the authority to mine was given from an initial request from the ministry to augment our resources to His Excellency. So it was through the minister that this request was done, and the minister made sure that all the legal processes were followed before we started any operation.
And what role did the Commander of Defense Force, now the Vice President, play in this venture?
A decision was made by senior management of the Ministry of Defense to get involved in commercial ventures. As a member of that, there is the Defense Committee chaired by the Minister, comprising myself, the CDF, the service commanders. So that decision came from that committee, which he was a member, to have commercial ventures to augment the government resources. So that was his only role. He was a member of the Defense Committee, and the Defense Committee made a decision, which decision was taken to His Excellency for an authority that was given, and all the legal papers were produced.
What I want you to clarify to this committee so that who was the Minister of Defense at the time when the mining started? Was it Honorable Dr. Sekaramai or His Excellency Emerson Dr. at the time when this concession started?
The minister at that time was the current president, His Excellency.
What role did Honorable Dr. Sekaramai, as Minister of Defense, coming in, also play in this mining venture?
It was a process that was already underway, and the benefits were being seen. It was part of the process that had already been started. So,
my last question to you is, we know of the Joint Operations Command, and this takeover certainly affected you, who are also members of the Joint Operations Command. So is the Central Intelligence Organization. So is the Zimbabwe Republic Police. But it is one of the members of the Joint Operations Command that then went to take over. What was the recommendation in the report from the Joint Operations Command to the President of one of its members operating illegally. Because you do advise, the Joint Operations Command advises the President on issues pertaining to national security. And this issue certainly happens to be that. It's chaired by the Minister of State Security, who reports directly. The Minister of Defense sits on it, the Minister of Home Affairs, the Minister of State Security. The commanders sit on it too, the service chiefs. They report it to the President. What recommendations and what report was given to the President pertaining to these takeover?
I can't comment on that, Mr. Chairman.
Don't you sit on the Joint Operations Command?
I do, but I have no comment on that, Mr. Chairman.
Who do you think is best to comment on the recommendations of the Joint Operations Command?
Obviously, it was a surprise to everyone. But for the actual recommendations, it would be fair for the chair of that committee to respond. The Minister of State at that time.
Who was the Minister of State Security at that time?
Minister Mohad.
Okay. I will allow members. Honorable Zenda, I saw your hand was up, then from there we'll go to Honorable Zondiwa, then I'll go to Honorable Chitakwa and Honorable Mkwena, in that order.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. I've got three questions. More tangible than anything else. The first one, Secretary, is on your corporate social responsibility, which you mentioned about houses, clinics, roads, and so forth. What is that as a percentage of your revenue or revenue for during the production process, the production period? The second question, which is really directed to the accountant, is on the profits. Secretary, you mentioned that we did not make profits for the, I think, 5 years of mining, or whether the period you were mining, but you got an advance of 54 million, which you used for various purposes. Did we have any dividends during that period of time? And if so, where did we allocate them? Then the last question, you mentioned that we mined plus about 9.022 million tons of carats, yeah? Of that, can you give, if the information is there, can you give a breakdown of what was gem quality and what was bought? Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Chair. In terms of the CSR activities, like what the PS has already said, much of the significant costs of CSR were actually incurred before we started mining and selling diamonds. It was the benefit of the foreign direct investment inflow by our partner. So all the tarred roads that are being talked about, the water treatment plant along Odds River, which is now government property because it was handed over to Zino, it was all part of the money that came in through foreign direct investment by our partner. So in terms of total costs, we are looking at 86 million that was spent because it did not, there are other things that were done there. Apart from the tarred roads, we got the water reticulation system. Each and every homestead has got a tapped water that reaches that place. We did that, and even sorting out the drainage, the caveats, so that there is no stagnation, creating ponds for mosquitoes and so forth. So if we say 86 million against the revenue that we generated by the time we were closed, so it's 86 over 332 million. You will get the kind of portion on what that investment in CSR vis-a-vis against what we generated. Then in terms of the profits, as what the PS has already said, when we started mining, the country was banned from accessing the global market because we were not, as a country, our operations were not deemed appropriate to be allowed into that. But we started mining with our operations supervised by all the relevant government agencies, is what has already been alluded to. So there was money being spent, that is from 2010, from 2011, with no income. But we're basically riding on the financial muscle of our investment partner. You would fund everything, buy the fuels, pay the wages for almost 1.5 years. And a lot of money was spent during that time. I think from the cost we have, it's around 32 million that was spent. And when you look at our production statistics, that's the period when Engine hit record production. 4.297 million carats were produced during that period when we didn't have any revenue. So eventually when we started selling, there were these issues like the investment partner also wants to recover that. And even when we sell, it was also a bit difficult to sell the diamonds as quickly as possible because there were market issues. Our tenders were not yielding as much as we needed because like what the secretary has already put across, our concession in terms of the production mix, we are talking of close to 80% of our output was from conglomerate. And the other 20% was alluvial. So alluvial was quite insignificant. It's your pick shovel, wash, and which is cheaper, but we were doing conglomerate. And from the conglomerate, initially, even the recovery, the grade was good. But from 2014 onwards, that's when we started having challenges. The holes were getting deeper, that is in terms of where we get the diamonds, and the stripping costs were going up, and we then realized that this was not really viable, yet we stopped doing conglomerate mining. So, like on the question of profits, this is why the secretary said they had to negotiate with the partner to say, you know our situation, we're in this difficult situation, but for now we can't wait until all these recoveries are done for us to start sharing things. Can we also have a bit of advance each time a sale is done? And that is what was happening. And also the partners would also recover a bit of their costs from the operations that were happening when we were not selling diamonds.
Just for a point of clarity, I thought the word mining requires exploration. Do you do the exploration?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have exploration equipment which the government does not have. And we asked the ministry that we could do this not only for our area, but come up with a special purpose vehicle to assist in the exploration for the whole country. But we didn't get any positive response. We have exploration equipment, Mr. Chairman.
54 million was advanced.
Yes.
To help you with the operational cost for
Yes.
Does this then technically mean the Zimbabwean partner has got a debt which they have to pay back, or will do some financial gymnastics? And if that debt is there, is it then a debt for the government or a debt for the private company? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think, like what the PS has already said, the arrangements were basically where we had our investment partner. He'd taken a long-term view of things. This is why I think in his presentation, you heard he was talking of cooperations in other sectors beyond diamond mining, like the hotel in Mutare, the Longchen Plaza, and even with the diamond mining, there was hope that this venture would also go on, create additional millions. And whatever deficits in terms of advances that the other party would have gotten at the expense of the other would be cleared as operations progress. But this abrupt shutdown now, it just put everything in the doldrums.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've got a couple of questions. The one is the agreement. Just four. Yes. The one is the agreement.
Can you also make them short, not long?
No, thank you. The one is the agreement. Do you have a formal, a written agreement in terms of with the former president, with the ministry? You said he presided over an agreement between you had a tripartite to go into mining for him to give you that those concessions. And then the second one, your figures are well articulate. You articulate figures very well. Chair, I am quite worried with the money that is attached to Ange 7 and 8 in the concrete works, the $45 million. I want to know from you how much it cost you, the 47 kilometers that you constructed to the relocation site, how much that cost you. It is going to give us an insight into whether it's a fire and forget, the get what you can what you get scenario, because we then interrogate the quality of that tar. Aware that we've got 821 kilometers planned from Tare that cost the nation $206 million at a rate of maybe $250,000 per kilometer. So we want to know exactly how much it is that you attached to that road. And then the last one, Chair, I asked this question the last time we had this meeting with the violent takeover of those concessions or of that mining venture. Did they have a court order when they came in to get you out? I say this because even a tenant, if they continue to stay at a place, accommodation place, without any lease agreement, they become what is called a statutory tenant. So we do not want to be self-serving and to take the law into our own hands. Being a legal entity yourself, did anybody have a court order in terms of removing you from your location?
Okay, I think just not those questions. And I think Honorable Kwena.
I'm sorry, Chairman. I'm going to Pinsek. Matizo tingati kuganishwa kana kuti the moment ye closure ye Anjini mine paiva pasina kubuda ma allegations ere before kana kuti pana ma allegations akambobuda achibva ku ministry here echibva somewhere else here nekuti tsanangudzo dzenyu maratidza kuti no company kana kuti ma stakeholders akabatikana nechitiko chekumiswa.
Okay, if we can have those questions to be responded to from Honorable Njuna and Honorable Kwena, then Honorable Chibisa, Honorable Bebuza as well. Thank you.
Thank Regarding the honourable member's first question regarding written agreements with the former president. In fact, what transpired is that the Minister of Mines then, Minister Mpov, wrote after Cabinet had agreed to go ahead with this venture. And there will be Cabinet minutes, I believe, which testify to that. And also the Minister himself wrote to the then President. And then there was a formal reply on which this authority was. We had sight of it with the President's signature to allow us to go into the mining. I believe the records are kept at the Ministry of Mines. And that goes with and also we went to State House. There was a formal meeting. I took the minutes of that meeting with the former president, where in fact he authorized us, besides the written agreement which the Minister of Mines has got. I've got the minutes because I was present when the meeting took place. And that was buttressed thereafter when we started negotiating the lease agreement. We did spend about 5 days with the Ministry of Mines negotiating the lease, which is the special grant, because we wanted the special grant to be with terms which we will both agree. And this, the Permanent Secretary tendered to the honourable members and to the chair, which was given to us by Ministry of Mines. I will leave the other issues to the accountant. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Regarding the issue of the tarred road at the relocation, it's unfortunate that I don't have a breakdown of costs, but at the office we can provide. That 86 million is actually a breakdown of everything that we did there. And I must also emphasize that the tarred road that we did, in terms of the agreement that we had with government, it was not even a requirement. It was basically out of the investor saying, if we just leave dust roads like this, they will affect the quality of life of the people. So let's put tarred roads. That is why if you go to the relocation area today, it's only Engine that did the tarred road, basically in the interest of the community. Then regarding the mine takeover, there was no court order that was given. In fact, like what the PS has already said, that action took all of us by surprise, because during that Monday morning, we had been invited for a meeting at the Ministry of Mines, where the Minister of Mines served us with the letters to stop operations. So as I was actually trying to update the PS to say this is what is happening here, that's when I got a call from the mine to say there are police ordering everybody out. And they didn't have a court order, they just really came in and caused the abrupt stoppage of operations. And we had challenges, especially with HR. We have our staff, and it's not allowed at law to just tell the workers to go away. There are certain formalities that even an employer has to do it, but we now have the government coming in to chase our workers, because I thought us as the managers, it was our responsibility now to see how best we're going to administer implementation of the minister's order. But I think we were a bit slow. They were actually too fast for us. So by that time, they went and took the law into themselves, chased the workers. We even wrote to the Ministry of Labour seeking guidance in terms of how we deal with that dilemma now, where government has come in and chased our employees. And the response we got was not very helpful. We simply referred to look at the Labour Act And that's the challenge that we had. But as responsible employees, we did not run away from our obligations from our employees. We actually engaged our employees, did some deeds of settlement to give a semblance of order to the parting of ways. Although it's unfortunate that as we speak, we have not managed to pay the workers in terms of their terminal benefits. But we didn't want to really get them tangled in this kind of situation that we had. We simply said, can you wait until we finish our issues at the courts with the government, and then we can see how we can settle each other in terms of what we had agreed. So the bulk of our employees agreed. Only 30 or so resisted, and they are still at the courts.
Can I follow up?
Then,
Mine is just a clarity, Chairman. I just need from the army, just to clarify, where specifically did you charge the road, just for a record's sake? And you need to take note that of all the people that have been coming to this committee speaking under oath, nobody spoke good about NG. There is so much variance. All that you have said here, nobody spoke good about you. So I don't know now whether these people were lying under oath. So probably, Mr. Chairman, just as a takeaway, probably we need to call Engine, the Army as well, the Community Trust, and probably one or two from the Workers' Committee. Because all that which has been said by Engine is so flashy, so creamy. They're so good. And with all that which was being said by people, this now is appearing more like fictitious. So I don't know who is who now, who is speaking the best under oath, or who is speaking the opposite under oath. Probably we need to go further. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But for the third road, if he can expatiate, then probably just for a record, I've noted that you were speaking well with regard to the roads. Did you, as a team from the Engine, Engine was a big company then, when you're passing just after Hot Springs, just as you cross to go to Chiadwa where you the Engine, there is a narrow bridge there. That's the bridge which accesses you between Odds River and Chiadwa. That's the road which you cross. And there is a narrow bridge there which was done by the Smith regime. Did they ever saw that bridge? And what effort did they do to improve that road? It's a one-way thing. Whenever you need to cross it, there is another truck coming from the other side, you have to wait. And that bridge, I told you, was done in the 60s by the Smith regime. Did they ever thought of anything before doing the truck road? Thank you.
Yeah, I think the issue of, I hear you, Honourable Member, when you talk about, is it cream, is it flesh? I think what they've done is they have presented the effects. I think effects are there, it's up to others to also counter. And I hear you, but I think they have said we're open to scrutiny.
Mr. Chairman, I want to also, we are inviting you, Mr. Chairman. These things are per ground. Dzimba dziripo, mugwagwa uripo, zvese zviripo zvatikutaura izvi, Mr. Chairman. As we speak, teenage query chema employees about 1.5 million, 1.7 million now. Chatisati tabhadhara. Saka kana kuti auye workers committee achiti vari kunyeba, isi was saying kuti takangodzi taida kuti continue. That bridge you are talking about, if you look at our priorities per stage 2, taifana kuriita, but because tasiri tega taifana kuita nevamwe zvimwe zvitakaita tiri tega, but we so many players, maybe makaona vamwe vacho taifana kuita as a social responsibility for the entire community. Isusu vatakapa Zimbabwe ndivatakabvisa pa concession yedu chete. If you have people representing Chiadzwa, it's a big area. Isusu was saying pa concession paid, we relocated these people tikanowapa dzimba dzavo. Honorable, may be specific nevenyu kuti ava venyu ava vari kuti hatina ndevava. We are not talking of other people. Paid isusu 488 houses takavapa, including Mwangane more than 10 wives. Tikatomugadzirira imba yake. But vamwe ava vane responsibility yavo. Brush, pen dye brush, pamwe pe black, pamwe pe red, pamwe pe white. Pe isusu kana pari pe black, ndepe black. We accept responsibility. Those are two.
When you do this now, say that we should be able to care. Community, the road spoke of this for us.
Yes.
It really says that I don't think we should conclude it as part of CSR. It's maybe.
Just go, yeah.
My question, I now answer my question.
Okay, let's just to take on Honorable Siama's point, I think when we invited, we also invite those communities who go on the ground with us. I think it makes it clear so that everything is done. I think it's about a specific concession.
Once and for all, the whole team.
So I think the committee will be happy to hear from you, to write, and then we'll go on the ground and invite the people who have been saying a lot, which I think needs to be clarified once on the ground. Thank you for that. Yes, Honorable.
No, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I have from the PEMSEC entourage on the issues of the list that you got from the former president. That meeting served as a lease agreement, or the cabinet authority served as a lease agreement.
No, Honorable, let me correct you. They have I think he was not here. There is a special grant.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
There is a special grant which they have. That is what gives you authority to mine, not what the president says. I think it's through that special grant. So he was not here. If you just forgive us, he was not here.
Yanga expire. Clause 8, yadaverenga munomu. Clause 8, the holder shall mine in this special grant as long as it's feasible, provided inspection fees are paid as provided in the Mines and Minerals Act.
It's clear.
Yes.
My point is exactly, Mr. Speaker, Chair, is there is, I can see the courts here.
No, sorry.
Yes, I can see the courts. We have the village courts, the community courts, we have the magistrate courts, we have the High Court, we have the Supreme Court, we have the Constitutional Court, and we also have a Labour Court. At what point do we have a parallel structure being headed by the minister? The last I checked is the executive, and he is not the judiciary. And the last I checked, we are parliament, we are not judiciary. At what point is the minister taking the law into his own hands and summoning and getting the police to come and evict you? What powers did the minister use as a court to grant the police the powers to evict you?
I think, okay, members. I think we've only got one chair, unless you want to talk about it. Let's understand that a lot has been explained when Honorable Nduna was not here. And I think it's pretty clear in terms of the takeover. The grant gives them the right to be there. That's the document which is there. And that question is not for them. The question is for the people who then ordered the police to go there. What is it? I think that we have asked before with the police being here. We've heard what they've said. So I think the evidence that's been given to us is quite adequate in terms of us making our recommendations pertaining to whether it was legal or not legal, members of parliament. So let us wait for the recommendations that we will then talk about, and I think that grant certainly helps us in reaching those goals. It's pretty clear that there was no court order. I think the minister, if you remember, Honorable Nduna Chidagwa said no, it expired. The question was, it expired, but when does it say you send the police? And he could not explain that. I think we were very clear, just to remind you on that evening, long evening, what Honorable Chidagwa said. He could not explain, especially when we said where there is a conflict, why would you get the police to get in and so forth. So I think these are some of the issues which I think were explained, and I think the former Police General in his written submissions has also alluded to a number of issues. He could not come, but he's given us a written submissions which we're just going through. So I think let's allow this to pass, and I think Honorable Mkwena, let's have a new question. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Chairman. Question young areas not mentioned the level that we are pensing. Ndakana pensing patsango yawaita. Varadza kubatikana kana kushamisika nedanho rakatorwa neMinister of Mines. Ndopandabvunza kuti before the closure of Anjin company pane allegations here akanga ambobuda kumasure achibva kuministry or somewhere else. Ndodzoka wepiri ndoenda kuna Comrade Brick General vatsanangura izvo kuti pakaitwa sitting cabinet minister vakazepa mvumo former Minister of Mines kuti company Anjin iwane kodzero yekumaina. Zvandisingazivi kuti pakaklozwa Anjin company mastakeholder kuti iyo company vakaapproacha here vakaenda here kuministry kuti zvamuri makatipa mvumo vakaenda here kucabinet sezvo cabinet yakagara pasi iye ikaisa marudzi chero kuti chiitike chivepo.
Ndosaka muri kuona kuti kutatiza nyaya vakaenda kukoti ndosati kuti nyaya haingaperi iye former president vasina kushedzwa nekuti mune matanza komiti yakarekomenda ndiye mukuru webasa ndiye chief executive officer unofanira kubvunza kuti madecisions kucabinet akasvika akanzi chindowe kurekomenda kuti makampanies abatanidzwe kuti aende ikoko asi vanoziva kuti pavakaenda ikoko zvakasunamira mushe izvi ndezvaformer president kuti vapindure. Ndosaka nyaya dzatiri kunzwa iti it's only proper that the chief executive officer of the country at the time answers to issues pertaining to my issues of governance. Haingaperi nyaya iyo vamugabe former president vasina kushedzwa tinenge tisina kuita basa. Honorable Chirisa.
Thank you, Chair. My question, I hope it will not be answered. This is to the defense. When you joined with the Anjin, what percentages did you agree? And you talked about the board members. How many were Zimbabweans, how many were Chinese? And out of these, how many were women? Then you talked about the CCTV. Was this only for Anjin as a company, or it covered the other mining companies as well? Then last but not least, I just want to thank you for the social responsibility. You talked about building secondary schools and shops and houses, and also bailing out government on national scholarships and parastatals. Have you ever gone back to these houses to see whether they're still intact or whether they are cracking or whether there are any other problems? Because we have been there, and I think there are issues that we also need to be aware of. And also, who has now taken over this social responsibility of bailing out government and also building of schools in the communities now that you have been stopped operating? Thank you.
I think, Honorable Chief, on the last one who has taken over, it is ZCDC that has taken over. They have a matter before the courts. They are no longer there. So I think it's ZCDC. I think we have agreed, members, that we must go on the ground.
Okay.
And I think most of the oral evidence that we are receiving, we must also compare to the ground. ZCDC have always said that they've been doing some corporate social responsibility. So we must go and see as well what corporate social responsibility they are doing. So also, members, let me guide you. Can we ask specific questions leading to Anjin and not other players? Because I think it will be very difficult to get them to respond. And sorry, members, when I called in that order, Honorable Kabuza, so I think let me give you a chance to also ask your question, and then they can respond to it. Honorable Sarawak, then we'll go to the next stage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I want to go back to the issue of exploration, Mr. Chairman. They've indicated, the secretary indicated that they've had strong exploration equipment. I would wish to know what type of equipment it is. If they had that equipment, why were they able to mine the conglomerates which were not yielding enough? and they use that exploration to verify the quantities and the grades. Then, with that exploration equipment, have they been able to explore the whole area, or it's only on their concession that they explored? Now, if they did explore, have they established the source of alluvial diamonds? Because the fact that they are alluvial, there must be a source somewhere. Can they be sure now where the diamonds came from or where they are from in that particular area?
Honorable Sarwaka, and then we can get answers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the background of my question is we are trying to locate the whereabouts of the 15 billion that went missing. And Anjin is one of the players from the Chiadzwa fields would probably help us. So I simply wanted to know then whether the long chain and the golden peacock were joint projects with Anjin, or if they are, since these operations are still there, can we then maybe say there is at least something that is still available from the process of the diamonds? And I still wanted then to know whether the money from this project, is it coming all the way to ending at Defense House, or there's something which is trickling to the treasury from the two operations, Long Chain and Golden Peacock?
You may respond.
Thank you very much, Chair. Maybe let me start with the Honorable Sarwaka. In terms of the issue of the 15 billion, like what we have said, we really don't know whoever gave that figure, the motives behind that, because from basic industry knowledge, that's not really realistic. But what we need to make very clear here, we had said the Ministry of Defense managed to attract an investor with the right financial muscle. So even when we're not selling diamonds, I think I talked about the issue of this investor being able to fund our operations without revenue. So when you look at Golden Peacock, when you look at Long Chain, these were projects that were being done concurrently. Even the relocation, we did not wait to start selling diamonds, then we start doing the roads, the houses. Everything was being done concurrently. That is why Golden Peacock opened its doors, I'm sure, during the second quarter of 2012. And our first inflow from diamond sales came during the first quarter of 2012. And Long Chain later on in 2012 it was on board. So these are projects that were being done concurrently, and it just underscores the need to have investors with the right kind of financial muscles to kind of help kickstart our economic activities. I think, of course, a lot of said things have been said, but not backed by facts. But I'm sure Anjin was quite generous in terms of really helping us improve our economic situation. All these projects that we are talking about, they created employment. For instance, the construction of the Long Chain Mall. There were no plane loads of Chinese that came into this country to do that construction. It's our own people. They were employed, and that project was done in a record, I think, it should be 11 months or so. And even that relocation, it's our own people from the local communities that were working, getting jobs. You go to Golden Peacock, there were activities in the construction there. It's our own local people that were doing that. And also, even the mine itself, the Anjin mine, it's not an ordinary mine. If you go to Chiadzwa, like I think the PS has invited you, you'll see that it's a standout mining operation. It's not some kind of bush mining that was happening. We are talking of a settlement. that was well developed with a long-term view of things, not just like we just want to do a kind of dash and grab kind of approach to business. That was not with Anjin. In terms of those ventures like Long Chain Mall, I remember the partner wanted land to put up that mall. And we looked around to get some suitable land. But we were having challenge in terms of negotiating with those that have land until they made an offer to their partner, obviously from the good working relations, to say if you as government can secure the land, provide it to us, we do all the development costs and we run this property on a 50-50, which I can say when government was saying 50-50 is in the extractive sector, but the investors in AFEC were already a step ahead, running a real estate venture with government on a 50-50 arrangement. In Mtare, there is a hotel venture. They were already running with the government on a 50-50. Yet we only provided land. They did all the development costs. So that kind of arrangement was being replicated in other sectors of the economy for our own benefit, which we were quite happy with. And also, I turn on to the issue of the equipment. In terms of the equipment, we have lots of equipment, and that equipment is still on the ground. We did not do contract mining or outsourcing people because with diamond mining, that is very dangerous and very expensive because you can dig down and fail to recover anything. But if you've got a contracted mine, we have to pay. So we had all the equipment. I can just give an example. In terms of earth-moving equipment, the dump trucks, we are talking of 89 dump trucks. Then other pieces of equipment like your drill holes, your graders, your excavators, your bulldozers, it's also close to 80. So it's all there on the ground. And this is the reason why we were the only company that was able to mine conglomerate diamonds. Conglomerate diamonds actually happen some meters down the ground in form of a hard rock. So for you to reach that now, we have to do a lot of stripping. And when you strip, you reach that hard rock, you need explosives to blow it open. Then you can take those hard rocks into the crushers, the cone crushers, and process until you pick that small stone. So it's quite involving and it's very expensive. But like the time we stopped our conglomerate mining, I think the stripping ratio had gone to about 18 times. By 18 times, I'm saying for you to extract a ton of ore from the conglomerate, you need about 18 tons of rubbish that you have to take out. So that was no joke. And when we did the yield economics, they were not adding up. You are spending 67 cents. And then when you sell, $67. And then when you sell, you are getting about $34. And we realized we were losing almost $2 million a month. So that's when a decision was taken. And that time we were mining at a depth of around 30 meters. So we had to stop. Although some had taken it to mean that the miners in the shares were there didn't have capacity. That was not the case with us. It was simply a question of yield economics that were not adding up. Then on the source of the alluvial diamonds, that was really a concern for the industry, because if you don't have the source, like the kimberlitic pipes, it means in terms of the mine of the life, you're not secure. You really don't know. So a lot of that exploration needed to be done. And even now, it still needs to be done. And this is why we're saying diamond mining is not an easy industry. It requires that capital, strong capital, to be able to do that. Like what the permanent secretary was saying, we were given 3,731 hectares by that special grant. That big area where that small portion was cut, it's about 68,000 hectares, 63,000 hectares. So in terms of doing exploration, and it's a lot of work that needs to be done, and a lot of investment needs to be done. So this is why, in our view, even when government came up with the issue of consolidation, and we had our issues, because we were saying this arrangement, you need to kind of study it, understand the concerns of all the stakeholders before you can push it through. But that was basically considered as maybe unnecessary resistance. But we thought, instead of maybe closing the operations the way they did, governments had already Marange resources in the bag. They owned it 100%, no issues. There was Kusena resources, which they owned. So, and these are the vast piece of land that ZMDC already had. They could still have worked, build around the consolidated business model to make it a marvel to everybody, rather than destroy things that were already there and moving. But what we had at the end of the day was that those things that were already moving and self-serving, they were destroyed. And now we have the ZCDC. It's still trying to take off. I think it's now 2 years on. It just shows that diamond mining is not that easy. We have to be patient and put in a lot of money. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Ten wants to supplement question.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. My supplementary question is to do with the long chain more. Just for clarity's sake, that's the investment which you did. It's quite remarkable. Can you put it on record as to, by now, do you have an EIA to the existence of the long chain mall? Because I remember going through some details that you never did. And in actual fact, that's a wetland, which was being pronounced as a wetland meant for the aquifer and all that. And you went in to do that investment purely out of a spirit of power, with the disregard to all the laws to do with the environment. And most specifically, you never acceded to requirements from the city council. You just went in there, you started to do the project simply because you are the army. Can you say something on that?
Thank you, Chair. In fact, when it comes to the EMA project, what you see above Longchen are the buildings which are above. We did agree, we submitted a proposal to EMA, and one of the requirements which EMA gave us was that we must create certain foundations. These foundations must allow water to freely move underground and not disturb the water system as it moves. So those buildings you see above, they've got foundations which were inspected by EMA. And EMA was certified that this is okay for the purposes of drainage of water into the system. We were also given a condition that we could not build at least 200 meters. I'm not sure about the meterage. It's about 150 to 200 meters from the stream, and this we adhered to. So in fact, to say that there was no EMA project proposal and an agreement with EMA is not true, because what we have done there is very, very up to EMA standards to ensure that the water flows underneath and the foundations don't affect the free flow of water. And in fact, the city of Harare, there are minutes which the city of Harare has got, which in fact there was a full council meeting of the city of Harare and it was approved, that particular project. So there was a city of Harare meeting which sat with all the councillors present, and the councillors approved the project. It's not like we just bulldozed our way. It was done in terms of the council rules and procedures. Thank you.
Encroaching into.
I'm not addressing the mining issue. I'm addressing the rule of law.
I think the point which you address which is critical is that, well, how far
we
have
need
they
the records.
Gone? No, how far have they gone in addressing that? And they say they have records, so they can submit the records to the committee, ensuring they comply. I think it was good you asked because it's been in the public domain, as you know, that it was not built with the authority of Emma, but now they have clarified that. So I think if we can get all the documentation pertaining to that, I think it would assist us. Are you happy with that response?
It's not me, it's the country. This thing is common known.
Okay, so we will get the information from you.
Mr. Chairman, this thing is not out of my creation. You had it in this committee before. It's not something that we have created here. Probably, if we can have the records to prove that those processes were done.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think you can. Do you have any problems with finishing us with the relevant documentation?
Mr. Chairman, we don't want to delve into other areas for other committees. We don't want to delve into that. The correct committee can invite us and we speak. As we speak now, we are engaging Emma. We are still continuing to discuss with Emma. So we have no problems with Emma. We have no problems with the state of Harare. So let's put this issue to rest. This thing, we don't want to politicize everything, Mr. Chairman. We don't want to do that. Let's move with facts. We have what we have the documents that we have. We provide the correct platform with those relevant documents. Period, Mr. Chairman.
I think, the issue is investment from the diamond revenue. And I think the question is in the public domain. I didn't see it being a big issue, but it cannot go further than that, especially if you're going to furnish us with information. I think Brigadier General Tarumba was specifically saying the minutes leading to all that, because I think what we want to also try and address is the issue of the perception that the military does what it wants.
No.
Okay, and I think yet quite clearly in Chiazu, you did follow the due process and there's rule of law, and I think that's just something which we cannot go deeper into it, like we said. But I think if you have information,
we'll provide.
Yes,
we'll provide. Yeah.
Okay. Honorable, there is Honorable Chirisa who asked some questions. If you remember gender issues.
50% shareholders. Okay, the issue of the board, it was like what we have already said, it was a 50-50 joint venture arrangement. So 6 of the board members came from the Chinese side and 6 came from the Zimbabwean side. And in terms of the women, yes, we had 1 woman in the board, Commissioner Ngube, who is with the ZRP. She also sat on the Anjin board. So that was in terms of the board. And also...
On that, Commissioner Ngube sat on the other board for the police and sat on the mines board again, on the defense board. What is so special about it? Who was recommending it? Because how can you sit on 2 diamond boards from the corporate government's point of view? I mean, I'm not understanding what is it that she has which is special more than any other ordinary person. Because my question that who recommends this police officer? I understand quite clearly that in your role of to ensuring that there's balance, you included the police. But who recommend the police officers to sit on these boards? Because we also had Ganyama, which is a problem, which she was sitting on that board, and she could not answer to many issues. So what is so special about her? I think I'd like to know, because I would equally want to recommend a lot of women to also sit on 2 boards of the same business.
Well, in terms of those nominations, they actually came from the police hierarchy. So us, they were seconded to work with us and work with them.
The police hierarchy, who in particular the police hierarchy is...
The Commissioner General, the CGP, Commissioner General of Police.
But were you as a board head with some is sitting in another diamond board, from the police is sitting in a board again, from a corporate governance point of view. Just from a corporate governance point of view. That's all I want to ask as the Zimbabwe Defence Forces.
You know, some of these things are now coming out in the open now. But then we really didn't know. You know, like the last time we were here, there was talk of what was happening at Guinyame and so forth. Those were not privileged to know all that kind of thing. It's also coming to our attention. But all what we can say is that the names came from the CGP, and we had to work with them. In terms of other interests that they represented with the police, we really wouldn't know, Chair.
Sorry, Chair, if I can follow up on your question. If you knew then what you know now, would you have allowed you to sit on that? Commissioner, if you knew then, it is said the end justifies the means. But if you knew then what you now know, what is it that you'd have done different?
If one member is the floor, then the floor, you have the right.
It's like that. You don't even export this.
Yeah, that is a good question.
Yeah. It's not right. Yeah, thank you, but yeah, thanks.
Yes, I think it's an interesting question.
I think in terms of corporate governance, when such a situation arises, there are issues to do with the conflict of interest, whereby one maybe is found on two competing entities. I'm sure the board would have deliberated and came up with an informed position and to engage even the stakeholder, the CGP, on the way forward, so that maybe an alternative name could be submitted if it was necessary.
My other question, were you also included on the ZLP board in terms of the countries? The military was so open to the point that it invited you for this board. Were you also invited to be on that board?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you can respond to one of the wishes. And I think the other question, what interests were the police representing? What interests were the police representing? When one sits on the board, there's an aspect of an expertise that they have. What interested the police and what were they representing?
Chairman, policing interests, security interests.
I thought there's also military allegiance. Is that not your arm of security?
Which one?
Military interests, allegiance.
It is, Mr. Chairman, but we wanted to broaden the scope of our security. I've said earlier on, even our security manager, because of the experience and exposure that they have, was from the police.
So why did you also incorporate state security, CIO? These are questions which come up, that yes, there's the police, and now what about state security? Why wasn't state security equally involved? Is that eye that no one has?
Okay. Okay, I think what was happening then, way back in 2010, when Engine was being set up, even the OPC, they were also involved in their own venture at the same time. I think we've heard the company CIO Zimbabwe Diamonds. It involved the OPC. So basically, that was the kind of arrangement.
What was the interest of the police in that? Yes, they said, okay, security. I said, why did you go further and put CIO? I've never known the police in the army to be good friends, to be honest with you. And suddenly they were friends in this nature. That's what I think. But I think let's respond to Honorable Chaser. Honorable members, we need to move before lunch so that I think we will work a trip again. Okay, you're raising your hand. It's only fair that we acknowledge you.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify the issue concerning
Commissioner Nonkosi Ncube and Commissioner Ndebele. Commissioner Nonkosi Ncube sat in the Anjin board and Commissioner Ndebele sat in the Gainyame board. So they are two different people. Thank you.
Now I understand why they need the police to sit on the board, because of that due diligence that you've done. So it makes sense. Yes, sorry. I thought they were moving. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. I will withdraw all the questions pertaining to that. If you could just finish off Honorable Chivisa's questions. Honorable Gaguzo, was the question answered?
Yeah, there was
Which one?
Honorable Sabata said we have 2 projects in which the military was doing ventures.
In terms of revenue, that
it's still coming, yeah.
Okay, yes, I mean, that's a good question. Yeah.
What has been happening is that, we have already said, that Anjin's operations were abruptly stopped, and we had issues with the creditors, and even now as we speak, we still have workers at the mine to look after our things. So you would find that some of the monies we have to borrow from a subsidiary like Golden Peacock to basically try to help to ensure that we don't lose our equipment from judgment creditors.
The question is that, are you generating revenue? Is it properly accounted for? I think those are the issues. Is it finding itself in the fiscus? I think those are the issues.
Thank you,
no
sir.
one is saying, no, you must have been, how well are they doing? Is there revenue? Is it being accounted for? Is it ending up with the fiscus?
Thank you, Chair. Those ventures are operating and are registered for tax purposes, and they are paying taxes in terms of your VATs, in terms of your pay-as-you-earn, or other taxes that are required. And they all have running tax clearance certificates. So in terms of contribution to the fiscus, Honorable Chair, that is happening.
Let's go to Honorable Chief. Honorable Vendor.
May I know your auditors? Is it the government or you have your own auditors? Is it the government or you have your own auditors?
What is happening is with Angie, with Angie, we had this arrangement where Minister of Defence, their auditors would also come in.
So just to the honorables, we seem to have two meetings here and there. I don't know. I think it's proper. No, but I think it's proper to bring it.
Then you don't give us the chance. Then what do we do?
No, I think they are responding to the issues of the revenue. If there any other issue need clarity, then it can come. We may proceed.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the audit, to ensure that there is a good corporate governance, as Anjin, we had not yet appointed an independent auditor to do the kind of audit that is required. But in terms of mitigatory measures that were in place, is that the Ministry of Defence, their audit would come and look at our books, makes the recommendations for corrective actions that are required. And also the Chinese would also have their own teams look at the books. And in terms of the operations, like what the PS has already said, these are operations that were manned by independent oversight mechanisms 24/7. And just to ensure the credibility of things like the outputs, the credibility of things like the sales coming in it, even in terms of how we spend money in the organization, it has to be jointly signed. This is why you see we had some kind of what I can say, an expensive admin structure where positions were kind of co-manning them, where you have, like myself as deputy general manager, there's a general manager Chinese, then you go maybe to procurement, the manager is Zimbabwean, his deputy is Chinese. It would go like that to ensure that when we are there, we are looking at the interests of our country. And my role there was more or less similar to the role of someone from ZMDC, from MMCZ, because at the end of the day, the key stakeholder is our government. We wanted those interests to be protected. And there were processes to try and engage an external auditor. But by that time now, we had run into deep trouble, basically trying to stabilize operations. Because at the time we were closed, our output had gone down to around 45,000 carats per month. And that was not sufficient to even generate revenue that can sustain our operations. But we were just saying, let's manage operations so that we minimize the bleeding point. We minimize the losses. So it was like even this budget that was approved by the Engine Board 2 days, two or 3 days before the abrupt closure in 2016. It was basically about balancing. Let's balance our spending, let's balance with our revenues so that we don't lose money, we don't destroy value. But like what the Honorable member has said, the issue of audit is quite valid. It's always necessary for credibility in any process and in any business operations.
pane zvimwe here zvamungatsanangura kuti munoshandisei ikoko kudefense kwenyu nokuti toona mabhajeti kunokatira mabhajeti techi muchinzi hanzi mupuwe mari dzakawanda saka iyoyo iri kumboshandei yachona yamuri kuwana muri kuiisa here kutreasure?
I think formation yemacompanies chairman yanga iri kubatsira budget ndozvataita ndo chikumbiro chakapiwa chataurwa chaiye kunzi kuchakakumbirwa kumukuru wenyika kuti tibatsire budget nokuti budget redu ranga risingakwani ende nanhasi harikwani. Iye zvino zvatiri kutaura kumira kwatakaita tataura zvatakakwanisa kudzimura zvehurumende zvakawanda zvokuti dai zvaiuya kwatiri zvaitibetsera, asi nekupiwa futi kubva kuvakuru vekuti taita dambudziko ravana vechikoro vari taita kutobatsira hurumende iyoyo tikaiverenga mari iyoyo inosvika almost ma50 million yandataura dai yakauya kwatiri dai tatopa nechimwe chindaro sedefense, but taibatsira zvinhu zvenyika, toramba chingobatsira zvinhu zvenyika, ndo zvazviri. Objective yecreation iyoyo yanga iri yekuti kwatinokonewa kuti tiwane mari inobva kufiscus yakakwana ngatitei mavhenji akadai anobatsira. Ndikaupai muenzaniso muchienda kuchinhoi tine purazi ratiri kurima ipopo rinorimwa ndofunga chairman vanotisiva tinorima kuti tibatsire zvamuri kutaura izvo, tinobatsira kuti bhajeti redu zvasingaiti tikwanise kuwedzera, asi hatisati tasvika ipapo. Saka kuvharwa kwatakaita kunzi gwishu tabva tada kushaya kuti tonanga papi. That was our purpose, kuti tibatsire fiscus matax tichibhadhara isusuwo tichibatsirika as an institution.
Can you respond? All I see are your red notes. Okay, thank you. Are you happy with the response?
No,
yeah. I think let's move to, yes, I know the firm. You might let me clarify this. You might want to know why I know the firm. I was the provincial chairman for Marshall, so I was the vice chairman for the provincial ENSCO committee. So that's how I know the honorable chairman, in case you might think there's something. Honorable Chisa, yes, we need to move. Did you get the question that she asked? Yeah. First, the gender aspect you answered.
Back to when they built those houses for communities, as a follow-up, because there were issues when you visited those houses. And the other one was said But the House is taking answer.
On that one, it says ZCDC have taken over, and they've also invited us when it's easy to go on the ground. I think when we go on the ground, we'll be able to then come up with a proper report. Because
Maybe while I'm still on the floor, Chairman, I just want to find out from them. We talked about the issue of the bridge that was raised by Honorable Msian, and they said they tried to invite the other stakeholders working on the other mining companies there to chip in and rebuild that bridge. My question is, was there no coordinating meeting for all these companies, maybe meeting every Monday or Friday afternoon, so that they brief each other on the challenges that they were facing as companies in each other?
yes.
Maybe if I may answer that. Indeed, Honorable Member, there were some meetings from an industry perspective. I remember the pressing issue was not just the bridge. There was also the issue of power. Power was a big problem. This is why when you look at an operation, the kind that Angela was running, we needed to supplement almost 40% of our power from generators. And that was also affecting the competitiveness of our operations. And there were discussions, I remember, when as an industry, we were talking of maybe pooling resources so that we upgrade the KV line to Chiadwa, so that at least that can cut on the operations cost. We discussed with the ministry, but I think when the issue of consolidation took center stage, these are some of the discussions that we just lost. They disappeared. But there were discussions. Then regarding the issue of the bridge, yes, those issues required the commitment of all the players to improve it. But on our part, we didn't just leave it like that, because as you come out from the bridge from that Odds River, there was this blind rise, which was like a very deadly spot. We moved in our equipment, tried to level things a bit, the blowing things and so forth, so as to improve as a short-term measure. But like what the Honorable said, given that diamond mining was doing well and performing as a future project, surely that road and the bridge, there are things that needs to be attended to. Then regarding the relocation, what happened with us is, at the relocation, we had our operations base. When we finished the houses, we did not take away our technical people quickly. In fact, they stayed there for almost 2 years, attending to issues, doors not locking, whatever, all the issues. The community would come, and then they would go and assist. And even when I went there with the visit by Honorable Wajajena, with that other committee on youth empowerment, the structures are still fine. The only thing that I saw that kind of distressed me was that the primary school now is overstretched, and there was a bit of hot city going on there. But as a company, it's really not us to blame, because others did not do school. They simply relocated people. Then there is also the issue of children from surrounding communities. That is the nearest school. The headmaster cannot turn them away, and cannot even talk about, I'm just taking people that were relocated by Angie. When you put a school, it becomes a public property. It's open to everybody to come in. But again, those are issues that still needs to be attended to. They cannot be ignored whilst children are learning under things like the sun and so forth. But we were there, we did not just put the structures in run. I mean, it was a very big project for 488 housing units done in 11 months, schools and so forth. You can have an issue where maybe one roof is blown there, but those things were fixed. But it's not like a big problem, and those of you traveling to Mutare, maybe you can just take the opportunity, turn off at the Grand Reef, turn off there, go to the engine area, see the things for yourselves. And Because when these things are written in the press, there's also the tendency to want to sell papers.
Yeah, I think we need to move to the next stage. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine is a traditional question. It is very short. Kwamaka relocate abantu vapenyu kwavakafa makaita zokuita
Yeah, when those things happened, we engaged the community. Vana Sabhuku Gamunorwa, Vana Dzoma, Vana Muedzengwa, the police, and the necessary exhumations were done, and decent burial was done. And that was done because, you know, it was a project that I can say our board at Anjin took it very seriously, to the extent that myself, 2010, 2011, I was literally based down there, dealing with those community issues. And even those 474 households that we relocated, I had the opportunity to visit each and every of their household. And we're not even doing that alone. The provincial minister in Manicaland, Vamshowe, helped us, seconded an officer to assist us with that process. The DA, Wachiringa then, who is now Mash Central, seconded was Gauke, who is now DA Mamtari, to constitute that team for all necessary interface with the villagers, so that we don't have issues where we can do certain things that the communities are not comfortable with. We were working with it as a team. We were working with the villagers. There were really no problems with the villagers in terms of fighting the villagers. We engaged the community with the leadership, with the government also involved, to ensure that that process moves well. Thank you.
I think we now move to my last question to you, Permanent Secretary. The 15 billion that the former president mentioned seems to have shocked you, and your oral evidence, you also talk about there was some motive behind this. I mean, you acquitted yourself well in being honest. What do you think was the motive of the former president in coming up with a figure like that?
Mr. Chairman, obviously, it might have been given the figure by some official. What we're saying is that we wanted scientific evidence to prove that there was that leakage. I also think that maybe in order to justify the issue of consolidation, somebody mischievously gave those figures, because there is no scientific evidence to prove that we had the capacity to produce diamonds worth 15 billion.
Okay, Director General, CIO Ambassador Moyo, I know that first of all, may on behalf of this committee congratulate you being the Director General. We've not met, and we also want to just move to a couple issues so that we don't waste time. And the issues, members, if you could come in, we had the former Director General CIO who mentioned that there was a joint venture agreement with a partner. We have not seen the agreement of that. I think Mr. Madzigira, who seated next to you, is probably aware of that. And of course, so I think coming in from an ambassadorial to being DG, you'd certainly be handed over certain documents which relate to that. We have requested to see the joint venture partner as well, who you're working with. And what would be your comments on that, and generally in terms of the concession that CIO had?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson, and thank you to all honorable members. Well, as maybe Chairperson, I should start by saying I've been Director General of the CIO sorry, I've been Director General of the CIO since January this year. And I may not be privy to some of the things that happened when I was not in the CIO. Now having said that, yes, I was briefed about the activities of CIO during that time when I was not there. When you requested that you wanted to hear something from the CIO, I then felt my predecessor probably would do justice to the issues that you wanted to raise. I need to be frank and say that at this point, and regarding the particular Diamonds joint venture that involved the CIO, I have not been able to see a copy of that agreement. So I am not able to comment on the nature of that agreement because I have not seen anywhere where it was reduced to paper. This morning I was trying to get hold of my predecessor, but unfortunately he's out of the country, and so I don't know whether CIO will be able to produce this agreement at some point. It seems certain matters may not have been reduced to writing. Thank you, Chairperson.
Mr. Manzigira, you have come before this committee. We have not given you a chance to speak, but you are the director. You are the person in charge of economics. The DG says he's not privy to that. Rightfully so, he started in January. You've been in the system. You've been running this with the former Director General, with the new Director General. The former Director General sitting right next to you said that there would be an agreement. Equally, we asked about SEMPA. Honorable then asked whether you knew SEMPA. And the reason is very clear, is that SEMPA is a non-criminal who was talked about here. And if I'm not mistaken, as I speak, he's in prison. Can you confirm to that? Because we want to be very clear about this. Where is SEMPA your partner right now? Who was your partner in this joint venture? And you're telling me the Central Intelligence Organization does not have records? Yes.
Thank you, Honorable.
Hold on, compliment that if you can finish details with regard to SEMPA as to how really they came into partnership with someone of such a character, bearing in mind the level of institution that we are dealing with. How come they couldn't do a profile of who they were dealing with?
You may respond.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. That question, I remember, it was asked to the former Director General last time, and he responded to it satisfactorily or unsatisfactorily, I can't say. But what I can say is that there are two issues here. There is the issue of SEMPA, which the Honorable Member raises. That one I may be at sea to comment on it. Yes, I know him. What I can comment on is our operation at Kusenge.
You cannot choose who to comment. Who is SEMPA? You know him. In what capacity do you know him as? You cannot choose not because he's in jail that you don't know him. But yet you're working with him. You are the Central Intelligence Organization of the country. The Honorable Member is asking, how could you make a decision in partnering with somebody who's a criminal? So now you want to choose not to tell us who SEMPA is, or is he not your business partner? Answer that question. I think it's simple. And then we will move forward. If not, then we shall
I'll wait for you to come with your business partner here, so that we don't waste time. Who was your business partner as the CIO?
Honorable Chairman, it's a bit difficult for me to comment on that one because the former Director General was basically in charge of that aspect.
In charge of that aspect, what was your role as being a director? Who were the partners? Who were you partnering with? It must be known. This is government giving you a concession. Engineers here, they explain what they did, everybody did. The Central Intelligence Organization. Who were you partnering? The former Director General says you were partnering somebody. So are you telling me, as senior as you are, you sat on a board who you did not know who you're working with?
Honorable Chair, as I indicated right from the start, that there are two levels in this relationship.
No, I think you talked about the operational. Before we go to the operational, let's deal with the ownership. We cannot talk about operational before the ownership. It's a very simple, so don't direct questions to me. I'm asking you questions, don't divert me, because I've got more questions from you. Because let's understand who was the owner of this. Everybody has clearly articulated who they partnered with. So who was the partner of the Central Intelligence Organization in this joint venture?
Honorable Chairman, there was a company called the China International Fund. That company was led or fronted by SEMPA, and it formed a joint venture called the CIO Zimbabwe. That joint venture was with the CIO. And you might ask on the joint venture agreements, those ones, the former Director General can answer them, because I never saw them. After forming CIO Zimbabwe, the company proceeded to acquire equipment for mining.
Okay, before we go there, so there was no agreement at all. You are not privy of that agreement that was signed by CIO Zimbabwe and China International. Where they, what was the shareholding structure?
I know it was a Singapore-based company. I know it did some business with CIO, but the Director Economics was not involved on that aspect.
I asked about the shareholding structure, CIO, and you could see Angie, you followed the proceedings. It was 50-50.
Yes,
so what was your shareholding structure? What did CIO control and what did the partner control? Because we're going through ownership first. And it's important that we don't jump before we first go over the first head. Ownership, what was the shareholding structure? China International had what, and what did CIO have? Then we move to the next question.
To be honest, Honorable Chairman, I was never privy to the ownership structure.
So who were you representing?
I was never in China International Fund. I was never in CIO Zimbabwe. Even if you look at the CR14.
In the structure, in the CIO, what shareholding did CIO have? It's a simple question. Let's forget about China International. What shareholding did you have? Who was the board? What was the name of the company? And who were the directors? Who you said with?
CIO had some shareholding, I believe, in CIO Zimbabwe.
Were you not on the board?
No, I was not.
So what is your interest in this?
My predecessor was in that board.
Who was your predecessor?
Comrade Kamba, who was the Director Economics before me.
Why did you not come with the whole board? Why did you not come with the whole board?
As I indicated, sir, when it started, CIO Zimbabwe, it had some representatives from CIO, and I was not one of them. I only became partly involved.
So I think maybe the rest of the time, we want the entire board of the CIO members who were on that. I think we are very clear with this. We have a very simple rule here that we must do this thing properly. We cannot have people who are not able to answer. So I think the Director General, with the authority and powers invested in you, we want you to hunt down the directors, just like the Commissioner General of Police did. Whoever is retired who was part of this board must come before us and answer to these issues, because it is important that we clear the name of this country and the Central Intelligence Organization. It is the best interest, Director General, for your organization to be cleared through this exercise. We must know, we must also get documents from SEMPA in terms of his shareholding structure in terms of that company. So we are very clear. If you can even get your partners from China who are part of this to come before us, it would even be better. And I also want to ask the final question. Where is SEMPA as we speak? Mr. Madzinga, we are asking, where is SEMPA? Because we want to know if he's in jail, you must tell us so that we don't expect him. Because we are not expecting him.
Honorable Chairman, I think SEMPA has some representatives here who can adequately address those issues you are raising.
But where is SEMPA? We want the principal.
No, we don't know.
We don't know SEMPA?
No, we don't know.
You as a Central Intelligence Organization, which we trust so much, come with a response to what SEMPA is. So what we're doing, we'd like you to come with him here as your partner. We work with you, the thing state. So it means the partner that you're with, didn't know Munza, you still know you still have a partner. So it's not Kumela, and then knows us Uno in. So it's not Kumela, Musua 23 Tiripano. Musua 23 Tiripano, we are ne partner. You still know about our women and your situation, do must invite now. Our same pan Dinumcha Unza Kuno. I think Mr. Madzinga, lastly, a question that I have for you is that what is your relationship with the former Director General of the CIO?
He was my Director General, first and foremost, and then he is an in-law. He's married to a, when we talk in Shona, we say Wakarora Manaweni.
Thank you. That is good enough for us. So on the 23rd, if the entire board and your partners can come before us, and I think you must equally get the former Director General to equally come.
Honorable Chair, if you could be a bit elastic, 23rd, I have some engagements out of Harare. I'll be able to come the following week.
Okay, so you come on Monday. When Monday, the 7th, 8th, will be open Parliament. So 7 is Monday. So you come Monday with your whole team, and we look forward to having the same time here.
Monday, that's 23.
7 May.
Oh, 7 May, that's okay. Thank you, sir.
After we get all the Chinese partners to come, it's sufficient. I think the Director General, we thank you for coming. I think we're very on your part. We would like you to assist us in showing that whoever the directors of this company appeared before us, whether retired or not, and we've done that with everyone. I think you saw that the Parliamentary Secretary of Defence was in the same way I think we did. When we were not in order, we said he must be here. And I think okay, just confirm. So members, I don't know if there are any other issues that you have. Members from Marange who had come through your here. From Mbala.
Yeah.
Remember what I said, you must write to the clerk. The clerk will then write to the committee so that you appear before us under oath, and I don't have a letter from the clerk pertaining to that issue. So I cannot allow you to speak because I would have
violated a lot, and we don't want to be seen on the wrong side of the law at this point in time. So you've got to pursue it with the clerk to say that the chairman could not entertain it because we have no correspondence from the clerk of Parliament that we must attend to. And Dr. Okoye, I think there's information that we equally need from you. If we could get that information to then assist us in reaching a logical conclusion pertaining to this in terms of the recommendations. But otherwise, we thank you for coming forward to tell us the other side that we're not aware of. Mr. Mantinga, I saw you doing that.
Yes, Honorable Chairman. I just want to get some clarification. The board members you want are for CIO Zim and also for Kusena, or only CIO Zim? Because those are two different companies.
So the board members of Kusena and the shareholders of Kusena. Yes, that's what we need.
You don't want for CIO Zim?
I don't know who you say it were silenced. I don't know who the board structure is. So from our point of view, we want to speak to your partners who are directors, the shareholders in this, as CIO. So who was Kusena? I don't know who Kusena was, because you said it was China International, maybe the other party, and CIO.
Can I explain so that we don't have the same confusion?
Okay, you can go ahead for a point of clarity on the floor. Go ahead.
Honorable Chairman, CIO Zim was a company formed by China International Fund and the CIO, and this company was the company which first went to Kusena, and I was not part of that. Then, after this company could not find alluvial diamonds, as the former DG explained last week, it donated equipment to its partners, that is the CIO. And the CIO later went to Kusena with ZMDC and formed Kusena Diamonds. That is why I am asking which directors do you want? For CIO Zim, which is another entity. For Kusena Diamonds, which is a different entity.
What were the situation with CIO went with CIO Zim before they went to Kusena? Kusena then became CIO and the government. So you had a partnership with CIO Zim, and that is what is critical, because that equipment you did not buy. It is your partnership with CIO Zim that brought that equipment. Yes. And the former Director General was very clear, because it was a very important question which was asked. And the question was, how do we know that you did not use the office of the Central Intelligence Organization to get this donation? And he said there was an agreement. So to me, it is that agreement that we want, and the partners of that agreement that we must equally question that did they give this voluntarily, were they forced or what? Because that's where it emanated from. Is that not correct, committee members? That's where it is. The equipment that that was donated
to CIO.
Yes, Zimra was saying we want to go through everything. Because the understanding was, you seem to have put people under duress to get them because of who you are. So the Director General vehemently denied that. And then we said, can we have an agreement with your partners that it was donated to you? And those partners must also come, and we must ask them, did you donate this willingly or not? Am I clear?
You are not, sir.
Where am I not clear, Mr. Madzinga?
You are not clear as to who you want.
Okay, I want those who donated equipment to CIO.
That's CIO Zim.
Yes.
And you also want Kusena Diamonds.
I want Kusena Diamonds.
That's clear and fine.
Yes.
Honorable Chairman, I'm now clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, go. I'll go back, yes.
So my name is Victor Mrendeni. I'm representing Badademos employees. On the letter that we have mentioned, we submitted to Secretary of the Clerk of Parliament.
So you see, when the Secretary, when the Clerk of Parliament receives that letter, he looks at it which is appropriate committee. Maybe it's a labour issue, he's going to pass it to the labour committee. If it's a mines issue, comes out. So the discretion is for him to see where the letter can go. But what I'm just trying to say to you, we cannot entertain you because we are guided by the Clerk of Parliament, by the Administration of Parliament, to who we should appear before us. The moment that you appear before us, then you know, with the nature of my job and the enemies I have, I would have received a bribe from you, and I would go, and all these members would even celebrate that the independent member is gone. So I like to keep my position. So I think let us follow the due process. I want to say to you all, thank you very much, Permanent Secretary. I think it was good that members said we're looking forward to going on the ground to see exactly what is happening and all that. I think to me that's what is critical. Oral evidence is one thing, the next thing is to see what's on the ground. General CIO, Ambassador Moyo, thank you very much. You were very patient to wait throughout. I know you are seized with a lot of work, but we respect that. You also respect this institution. It is your institution, by the way. It's not us as members. It is the institution that belongs to the country that is about to play. Mr. Okonya, thank you very much for attending. You are excused. Thank you. Members, you could just stay behind. As usual, the media, thank you very much. I've forgotten you. We appreciate you being here. Thank you.
I didn't get your instruction because I
Just check.